guys, Bruce Kittle here, Hidden Pearl Studio. I am flying solo tonight. All right, it is NFC Championship week 21 of the NFL season, and my compadres are off and about and committed to other endeavors tonight. So our apologies to you for that. But the great news is you get me solo, and you know what you're going to get, a lot of stat dad. No, we're not going to do too much of that. So anyway, but grateful to be here, being this week, running with the NFC Championship game. So Sunday at Levi's, Niners host, and we're really excited about that, and so that should be pretty good. The Detroit Lions coming in at 12-5, so we're going to talk about all those kind of things and a few other deals. But anyway, just it's been a great week, been a great season, really. Some ups and downs in there, but you get to this point. One, you're grateful. Niners been in it now, 4 times in the last whatever number of years, and one other trip to the Super Bowl. And I know this team is super dialed in and really focused and ready to go. So we're going to talk just a little bit about that. So let's do my little intro. I know you've been just dialing in just for that. So great. So week 21 NFC Championship versus the Lions. And here we go. Welcome to Championship Weekend, where the 4 remaining teams left will face off in their respective conferences to determine who will advance to play in the Super Bowl on February 11th, 2024 at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, Nevada. Who doesn't want to go there? All right. We will get to all the details shortly, but the Niners punched their ticket to the NFC Championship game by defeating the Packers 24-21. I'll unpack that just a little bit, but anyway, got the win, got the W, and move on. It's the playoffs. A win is a win. Lots to look at, though. All right, game was a bit rough, and Niners were not at their best. Some of that game, making it a tight one, as the Packers certainly gave us their best shot. They came in and played pretty well. But they missed a field goal late, as many of you know. They left the margin at 4, and with a little over 6 minutes left on the clock, everyone in the stadium knew that this was it. And to the helm, Brock Purdy responded. And so indeed it was. Brock and the boys went on a 12-play, 69-yard game winner where Brock went 6 of 7 and scrambled twice for 11 yards. His last scramble setting up the go-ahead touchdown by CMC from the 6-yard line, leaving just a little over a minute left in the game. Niner defense rose up again and sealed the victory with an interception by Dre Greenlaw, which was his second of the game. And he ran all over the place again, but it was great. Nobody minded, and it was beautiful. So this sets up the championship versus the 12-5 Lions, who defeated Tampa Bay 31-23. Niners now on the doorstep to the Super Bowl and bringing another championship to the Bay. So that's what we're looking for. Here we go. Anyway, that was pretty exciting. So let's talk a little bit about the playoff results, and then we'll talk about the Packer victory. So playoff results, as we know, Niners defeated the Packers 24-21. Detroit defeated Tampa Bay 31 to 24, I think it was, right? And for their second home victory in the playoffs, and I think it was 30 years or so. So, and just hats off to what they've done in Detroit. It's an amazing thing for all Coach Campbell and everybody that's worked there. So they've done a great thing. We'll talk a little bit more about that. In the AFC, Ravens defeated Houston 34-10, and the Chiefs went on the road up to Buffalo and beat the Bills 27-24. So the pairings are finally set. Last 4, Ravens host number 3 seeded Chiefs. So remarkably, and for Patrick Mahomes, that was his first time he had to go on the road in the playoffs. And he was able to do that with a victory over the Bills. People have been saying he's been kind of coddled at home, but they went on the road, played well, and there were some openings there, and they took it and got it done. So that's pretty good. So the Ravens are favored by 3.5. All right, so it seems about right. Both really good teams, 2 really good quarterbacks, and a lot of really good football players. So pretty cool. Excited to see that one. Then the number 1 seed Niners host the number 3 seed Lions, and San Francisco currently is set at +7. Well, -7, so they're favored by 7. But anyway, so we'll kind of see how that goes. Anyway, Packer victory 24-21. So this week, watching some of the clips and all that kind of stuff, there were a lot of questions about Brock Purdy. And so Brock went 252 yards, 23 out of 39. Not a great day there. But anyway, 1 TD, young George Kittle on the pass, and 0 interceptions. So still, and I think most importantly, he played when it mattered. So before we get to any of the other things, I was listening to a clip, and I think it was John Lynch, our fearless general manager, who has a lot of NFL experience, as we all know. And people were asking him about that And the whole team felt a little bit out of sync for the first three quarters, honestly. Defense really settled in the second half, played well, and gave us a chance. They had the big fourth down stand in the red zone there. And that was really a huge turning point in the game. But one of the things that Lynch said is be at your best when your best is needed. Be at your best when your best is needed. Now, I mean, I think as NFL players, we all expect and anticipate, if you're a player, you want to be at your best all the time, and that's what you try to do. But, as human beings, we're not all the time. But here's the thing. When it really mattered, and it's win or go home, and you haven't played great all day, and you got 6 minutes to run the clock and get a touchdown to win the game and move on to the NFC Championship, are you going to do it or aren't you going to do it? And that's what we found out about this Niner group. Now, they've done it in other games and all that kind of stuff. If you remember when we went up to Philly, our first two series there were really rough. And it felt like, ooh, man, wheels might be falling off. But it wasn't. We got that first down, and things started to click, and then you know what happened. So it really just matters that you kind of hang in there. So I think John noticing that, and so it really mattered because that's when your best was needed. And everybody settled down. Brock looked like the Brock that we've seen all season, and it was pretty cool. So shout out to old John on that because I think that's really good. And of course, in the playoffs, you got to be at your best quite a bit, which will be needed this weekend when we're playing those Lions, as they are playing pretty well. So anyway, I already mentioned Brock. CMC went 98 yards on 17 carries with 2 touchdowns. Running tough, had a burst, longer one. I can't remember how long that was, 30-something, I think. Anyway, good job up front. And then the touchdown run at the end from the 6-yard line. Broke a tackle to get through that, but that was pretty wide open. So great job by the O-line up front, just driving it, and looked really good. GK was leading receiver for 81 yards on 4 receptions and had this 1 TD. Little man coverage there and beat the guy across the middle and into the end zone. So that was sure fun for all of us on my birthday. So thank you, George. And then defense really rose up. And again, Jordan Love is a really good quarterback. The Packers got a really good team. They run the ball really well. A lot of really good things going on there. So, but for Dre and the boys come up with 2 interceptions there, really shifted the game, plus that fourth down turnaround. That was huge. So anyway, so shout out to those guys. They really rose up once they settled in. And, I was thinking about Brock too, and no excuses because you got to play, but, he hadn't played in a game for 3 weeks. So they held him out the last game, and then we had the 2-week bye. And so I think maybe there was a little something to that rust. You kind of get out of your rhythm. You're feeling healthy, but you kind of lost that game-to-game thing. So anyway, so I don't know what the key moments and lessons were. I think for me watching it, I was really relieved in that last drive where things felt like they got back to normal. Fourth quarter, or most of the second half, a lot of it, the defense played much better, kind of settled in. And so that was good to see, kind of getting their wheels back underneath them and all that kind of stuff. Already mentioned some of these key moments. The break, the 2 TDs by CMC were big, had some big catches. Jennings came up, Ayuk. I mean, there were some big first downs in there. Those guys did a great job. Brock really threaded the needle on that one to, I think it was Ayuk, on a really critical third down in that last drive, and it was a really big deal. So anyway, some pretty good football in there, so it was great. But just a reminder that there's not a lot of room for error. Turnovers kill. I mean, there's just no greater way to mess things up. So hitting the turnovers, excuse me. And then just playing physical ball and playing your kind of ball and getting back to it. So hopefully we'll see a lot of that this week with those guys. So let's see, what do we think about the Lions at the Niners? The Lions come in overall 12-5. They won the Central Division. That was the first time for quite a while. And then in the playoffs, they opened by beating the Rams. That was a tight, close, hard-fought game. And then Tampa Bay, which also was, for the most part, until kind of toward the end. But Lions are playing good football, and we've known that. So the stats versus the Niners stats, I guess just because it's me, I think I'll just read these instead of getting poo-pooed. So fifth in scoring. Lions are fifth in scoring at 27 points per game. Niners are third in scoring at 28.9, so almost 29, but really close. And again, this is season, right? So that's a lot of football. So there's some ups and downs in there, but still to finish the whole year that way, so both teams are scoring a lot of points. That's pretty good. Both in the top 5. Okay, in points allowed. So Lions are 23rd in points allowed. They're giving up 23 points per game. Niners are third at 17.5. Doesn't seem like much, only 5 points, but still, we know games are decided by 1 or 2 points. So that is a lot. They played really well, though, over the last 3 or 4 games. They closed the season out pretty tough. So, but we'll see if that's an edge for the Niners. In yards per game, Lions come in at third, averaging 395 yards on offense per game. Niners are second at 398. So only 3 yards differentiate those guys. So that's pretty cool. So pretty even there. So they are moving the ball. They run the ball well. We'll talk about that, as do the Niners. So in passing yards per game, they're second in the NFL at 259 yards per game. Niners are fourth. So they actually come out on top of that. But again, both teams in the top 5. And in the playoffs, who knows what's going to happen, right? In rushing yards, Lions come in at fifth, averaging 136 yards. Niners are third at 140 yards. So you can see offensively, these are pretty evenly matched up teams. So pretty cool that way. Well, what about rush defense, Bruce? Okay, well, let's talk about that. Excuse me. Lions in rush defense are ranked second in the NFL on the season, giving up just 88 yards per game. Okay. And in the last 3 games, so the last final regular season and the last 2 playoff games, they've averaged 82 yards. So they are being tough to run on. So it's pretty cool. That way be a great challenge for our Niner offensive line and guys. So we'll have to rev that up to get the outside zone going and doing all that. But that will be a key stat in this game. Niners come in at third in rush D, giving up 92 yards per game, and over the last 3 have given up 102 yards per game. So they've kind of jumped up while the Lions have actually tightened things down. Now, you might look at the teams that they've played. So last 2 were Rams and Tampa. Tampa is going to throw the ball quite a bit. So you don't know if that's really how great the defense was or if they just threw the ball quite a bit. So that's one of those things. We know on the Niners side, we've given up a few yards here and there, so that's going to be a really good challenge because definitely the Detroit Lions are going to come in and they are going to want to run the ball. So they are coming at you hard. What about pass yardage given up? This is interesting. So the Lions come in at 31st in yards per game and pass yardage given up. I was surprised by that when I looked that up. So that was pretty interesting. So let's see, given up. So they're giving up 257 yards. But check this out. In the last 3 games, I'm just trying to narrow this down so we can kind of see what the vibe is. They've given up 345 yards per game on average. So they jumped 90 yards per game. Now, again, they played Tampa Bay. Rams threw the ball really well. So you got a little bit of that going on. So all those kind of things fold in. So, and again, what they do against us, but they have struggled. 31st, that's kind of down there. Niners are 13th in yards given up per game. They average 213 yards passing per game. And here's a cool stat. So they went the other way. So on the rush, the Niners ended up giving more than their average. In this situation, they actually went from 213 yards per game on average for the season. In the last 3 games, they're only averaging 169 yards given up per game. So they tighten things up on the old pass defense. So that's going to be a really interesting thing to see that unfold. So hopefully Brock and the boys can take advantage of some of that. Now, interesting stat. I was going to go over this with George, but one of the other things that has happened is the Lions have really struggled against tight ends. Now, you know we like our tight ends. So they rank, I think it's either 8th or 9th worst in the league in yards given up to tight ends. Here's the other thing. They've really only played, and no disrespect to other tight ends, but if you look at it, Mark Andrews is really the most notable other tight end. I believe in that series. But anyway, so they haven't played a whole bunch of folks, but again, they're in the bottom 10 of yards given up to tight ends. How's that unfold for us? Well, I don't know. So again, George is my kid, but I'm thinking that looks pretty good, honestly. And I know it could depend. Debo says he's all back, which I hope he is, because that still opens things up. So whether Debo's in or not, and again, I hope he is because he just changes the game so much. But I still look for tight end to have some pretty good space there along the middle and some of the things that Coach Shanahan does. He does a great job matching some of that play action stuff up and getting Brock loose and getting rolling and all that kind of stuff. We love to attack the middle of the field, and we'll just see kind of how everything opens up. But I think that may be one of those areas of the game that we really got to pay attention to. Okay, what about defense? Now, we talked a little bit about what they've given up, but so Lions come in at 23rd in sacks, having 41 sacks on the year, and 11th in INT interceptions with 16. Niners are 6th in sacks at 48, all right, and first in interceptions at 24. Okay, so just a little bit higher in those ends. And again, playoff ball, everybody is literally balling out. So you got everybody working super hard. So we'll see how that kind of goes. So one of the things that'll be really interesting with that, I'm blanking on his name right now. Should have written it down, but I know their center he's been injured. He played hurt the last one. He's got a couple things going on. That would be huge. I think one of the guards is a little nicked up. So I didn't check the injury reports of late right before I jumped on. I probably should have. But anyway, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And it'll be a really interesting matchup with our interior D-line as well with those guys. So let's see what happens. All right, what about key players? Obviously, we know about Jared Goff. He's the guy that got flipped over, and everybody made a huge deal about it when the Rams came to town, and Jared pulled that one off pretty nicely, and so good for him. So it's got to be a little bit of validation. But this is interesting comparison with Brock. So on the season, he comes in with a 68% completion rate, 33 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Brock, okay, so again, Jared has 270 yards per game average. Brock's coming in at 267 yards per game average, okay, almost identical. Brock has just slightly by 0.5%, but he's at 68.5% completion rate. Okay, so they're almost dead even there. And compared to Jared's 33 touchdowns, Brock has 32. And instead of 12, he's got 11 interceptions. So the guys, I mean, they're dead on. So that, I think, just pretty amazing after all these games for it to come out that way. So those two guys are pretty evenly matched. And it's pretty cool. Testament to Brock and the Niners and everything they've done, but also to the Lions. So playing some good football, really solid football. So running back, Mr. Gibbs for the Lions. He's got 945 yards on the year, 63 yards per game average, 10 TDs. And then Mr. Montgomery, 1,515 yards, 70 yards per game, 17 averaging 17 attempts per game with 14 TDs. So they got kind of a 1-2 punch going there. And guys are running hard. They run really hard. They're a very physical team. You're going to see that. I would say this is pretty close to the two of the most physical teams in the NFC. Other people kind of argue with me about that, but I mean, with Coach Campbell, that is a trademark that he wants to come out with, and so, and I know that's what the Niners want to do too, is run the ball. So it's going to be great. Comparing CMC, I think CMC is about 1,500 yards right now, 92 yards per game, 18 attempts per game, and 16 TDs. So anyway. So a lot of good running backs all the way around. So you're going to see some good running, and you're going to see a lot of it. So, which is pretty exciting to me. Some people think that's kind of boring, but if you can run the ball in the playoffs, you're going to win. So that's really what it comes down to. Wide receivers, St. Brown for the Lions, 95 yards per game, 8 receptions, 11 TDs. And then our good buddy from Iowa, Sammy Laporta. Congratulations to him. He's had an unbelievable rookie year. So he's been amazing. His 10 TDs led all tight ends. So great, congrats to him. He was at 889 yards, 52 yards per game. But he is playing lights out. He had a little knee injury there a couple weeks ago, but he played through that with a brace and only looks to get stronger. So I'm sure he's going to be a deal, and that will be a test. He'll be for sure one of the best tight ends our team has also played the entire year. So we'll see how the tight ends kind of take over. Now, this might be interesting for you guys. If you think about the tight ends, right? So the Ravens have Mark Andrews, and there's another person there I should know who's playing with them, but they both had a pretty good year. Mark was hurt for a while and then is back. Obviously, Travis Kelce will be in the game, so you got two pretty darn good tight ends there, and then you got George and Sam. Is it a coincidence? We say not. That the 4 teams playing for the conference championships all have pretty solid tight ends. Top level. So that's pretty cool. So a testament to them, both on the run game and the pass game. So just my bias. Give me a break. Excuse me. Okay. Then compared to those receivers, we got Brandon Ayuk coming in with 1,342 yards, 84 yards per game, averaging 5 receptions and 7 TDs. George came in at a little over 1,000, 64 yards per game, averaging 4 receptions per game, and he had 6 TDs on the year. So now, I didn't do a lot on the defense because I usually don't, because I let George do the scouting report on that. He can't make it tonight because he's getting ready for that game and has a bunch of interviews and all that kind of stuff. So my apologies for that. So we do know defensively, I kind of talked about that. They've struggled a little bit defending the pass. They've been really good against the run. And kind of bottom end for sacks, but they can bring heat. They got players. But I think the one thing you'll see on them, there's kind of this never quit. I think if you look at the Lions, and really I saw a little map of the United States, who's cheering for the Lions versus the Niners, and a little red around the Bay Area and a couple strips in California, and that was about it. Everybody else in the country is rooting for the underdog and kind of Cinderella story Lions. Well, we are not, but we do appreciate their story, and we really appreciate what they bring to the game. And I think Coach Campbell, early on in the year, I saw this quote, and he said something about, if you're looking for us, you're not going to have to look far because we're going to be standing on your front porch. And there is this kind of chippy attitude. And so, and I do appreciate that. He played tight end in the league, physical guy, wants to play that kind of football. So they will be bringing it. And I know they have no issues worried about, coming out here and playing us with that. So they are going to give full swing. So that's going to be pretty good. They will be flying all over the ball. And they, too, will be trying very desperately to shut down the run to make sure that we do not run the ball, force Brock to try to win it with his arm and throwing it to our receivers. And we'll see how that plays out. But feeling pretty good about that we got CMC always as the dump. And the other things that he does, you got Juszczyk on the wheel route or a couple other things. I think we could use him more for sure. And then you got George and Debo and Ayuk and the crew. So we got a lot of weapons there, as everybody knows. So we're going to see. We'll hopefully be able to test them pretty good. So we'll see what happens. All right. So super tough physical team. Is it America's favorite? I don't know. There's a lot of bang bang Niner gang out there. So we're just not being represented right now because we've had a decent run here lately. So, but let's see what happens. But I do think facing them with the kind of chip on their shoulder, underdog, Cinderella, all that kind of stuff, I think they're coming in with that. I don't know that they're going to feel disrespected. I don't know anybody can do that. So I don't think anybody said anything. No, they're not favored, but they're on the road against the number 1 seed with a full lineup. So I don't think that's anything there. But so keys to victory, what are they, Coach? Well, I will tell you this. They're the same as they are every week, but everything gets compounded in the playoffs. That's really the truth. So like I said, interceptions, turnovers are massive, massive. You only get so many possessions per game. And each single one makes a huge difference. I mean, that is 5 or 6 minutes of the clock you don't get, and they do. And so your defense is playing that much more, that many more opportunities for big plays and or to score points. So the turnovers is massive. Obviously, running the ball and stopping the run is huge. Both of these teams want to run the ball. And so you're going to see that. And the team that can stop the other team, I think it'll be a huge, huge thing. If you can run the ball, then you eat clock, wear down the defense, and their offense is sitting and can't score points that way. So obviously running the ball is going to be really, really important. So those are the two big ones for me. Obviously playing super physical. It's going to have to be. So if you're trying to run the ball, can't do that in a cute style against either one of these teams. So it's just not one of those things. So from Boza to Eric Armstead and all the guys inside, and Fred will be lit on fire. Dre will be coming, so the whole crew. So they will be lit and fighting on that run stuff. So it should be pretty good. I think that's one of the areas, our pass defense, I think, is significantly better. It has been statistically, and our guys have really stepped up and played well. So getting a couple turnovers, as they did in the last game, would be huge for us. So that's going to be pretty big. So, and another key to victory is getting the faithful out and raising hell, being super loud and getting after it. So that makes a difference. If you don't think it does, you haven't been to a football game at Levi's lately, or if you haven't played at Seattle or New Orleans or some of those other places where it's just so loud you can barely think. So it makes a difference. So let's get that crowd out and raise some hell. All right. Let's see. Deanie Wine, Shoes, and Food. I had pizza tonight. How's that? We went to a little place down in the town where Georgie lives. It was really good. We hadn't been out for a while, so that was pretty fun. Had a little pizza. Deanie's doing great. I haven't had any wine. I don't really drink it, so sorry about that. And shoes. I can. So these, all right. George got me these. These are my Jordans. I don't know what they are. Hang on, let me look. But anyway, every time I wear them, people make a big deal about it. So they must be kind of cool. I don't know. So sorry. You guys might know, because I sure as heck don't. What is it? Blah, blah, blah. Nothing. I can't tell. But people tell me these are great Jordans, and so that'll be my game go. What do you think? Looks pretty good on me. I got black jeans going with them. Okay, probably go all black. Kind of a Niner black top. Won't need long sleeves though. It's supposed to be really nice, 72 degrees here in Cali. So that's the shoes. Okay, ask George. Well, the only question I really want to ask George, I'd really like to talk to him a little bit more detail about the run game. So what is it and how does he feel about it? So that would be really good. I'm anticipating they're going to come out. I think you're going to see the classic and traditional and original Niner run game. I think everything's set up by our outside zone, whether it be Zorro or otherwise. And I think everything kind of comes off of that. So if you see us running outside the tackles really well, I think that is a good omen for the Niners. Now, Lions know that, and they're going to come with everything they got, but I think it's going to be tough. The other thing we do really well are gap schemes. George and I have talked about that. But I think you're going to see that. So between our outside zone and then a heavy dose of down blocking, kick, and then somebody boots out or pulls up on a backer, that is also something I think overall we do really, really well. So if our run game outside and the gap schemes are clicking, we're going to be pretty good. So I would talk to George about that. Let's see, Football 101. Don't really have any coverage questions and or routes. I guess the one thing I've seen throughout the year or throughout this week is questions around if Debo's not there, why does that change the game so much? I think last week when you look at what happened with the Packers and Debo got hurt, because the offense is built having Debo in there and he's just a different cat. And so when he is in there, it kind of changes how defenses play us. And then it kind of changes some of the other things. And so when you lose, I think Debo in the middle of a game like that or early on and your game plan's built around having him there, I think that's kind of tough. So I'm sure Coach Shannon's kind of diversified a little bit, spread that out a little bit more, and has prepared for that option. And so we'll have to see how that goes. But I think it's a great thing when he is there because obviously he does kind of stress the defense a little bit more in other directions. So that's kind of that. All right. So let's see. Last week, our charity of the week was Feeding America. And so we were grateful for that. So just a reminder, food scarcity is a very serious and real thing in America. And so if you can, have an option to help, whether it's a couple of cans of soup or whatever, but just taking care of our neighbors best we can. This week, we're going with Oceana. Oceana is a nonprofit that works to protect the oceans. So I'm a scuba diver and love water and the oceans and that. So that's just been kind of a pet project for us. And so we are going to make our weekly contribution to those guys and try to help support that effort to protect marine wildlife as well as cleaning things up. So what are the hidden pearls of the week and kind of what gives you hope? Well, the quote this week, I had two of them I thought that was related to our playoffs here. The first one is in the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. In the middle of every difficulty lies opportunity. That is by Albert Einstein. Most of you know who that is. So it was just in this. So the difficulty I'm just going to pose is obviously playing a really good football team. But last week when Niners kind of struggled, there is an opportunity in that. It's just like when I was at the Eagles and they started really struggling and they turned it around. I think there was a lot of lessons learned in that. They built a lot of confidence. And I think the same thing last week against the Packers. It was kind of their back in to the playoffs, the intensity of it and all that kind of stuff. And so I think they took a couple shots, but I think they responded really well. And so I think therein was that opportunity. So we're going to continue to learn and grow and see if they did that. And then the last one I always talk to George about is dream it, manifest it, and claim it. So you got to dream it in your mind. You got to see it visually, right? Then you got to set your intention. That's the manifestation. So, and then you got to claim it. So see that world, let the energy of the universe rise up and greet you. So my hidden pearl this week, I was flying coming out here and on my bag. So some of you know that we're taking a trip to India as a fundraiser for Operation Freedom Paws. And the organization that's helping us put that together is a group called NANDA. And so Nicola is out there with them. But anyway, I had their little tag on my bag and I was going up the escalator. And the woman in front of me turned around, she looked at me and then she looked at my bag and then she looked at me and then she turned around. And I was like, it's kind of weird. You know, she's with her husband right there or whoever. But so we got to the top of the escalator and she turned around and she goes, who's Nanda? And I go, oh, Nanda. I said, it's a travel organization that we do some stuff with. And then she started to cry. And she said, well, Nanda was the name of our last dog, and she just died of something, I think cancer, I don't know. But anyway, it was a pit bull German Shepherd mix something. But anyway, so she went on for a little bit about it, and she was pretty weepy. They apparently just had to put her down. Anyway, so finally her husband said, honey, we got to catch a flight. But I think what gives me hope a little bit is how much people love dogs. And I love dogs, and so does our family. So in the little ways, and I guess where I'm going with that is just remember to find joy in the little things in life each day. And so whether it be just the sun coming up, a breeze on your face, love of your family, because life's short, and sometimes we get so busy we're looking around to a lot of other different places, and sometimes we forget the things that are right in front of us, and that can really bring us joy if we just decide to be happy. So here's to being happy. Wishing the boys good luck, safety for everybody that's playing, and hope all of you are doing well. So that is kind of a wrap. We are hoping to do another one, plan on doing another one before the Super Bowl, and wish all of you well. Cheer loud, as long as you're cheering for the Niners. And if you're not, we were talking about that too. A lot of teams ain't playing. There's only 4 teams across 32 that are still practicing. And that'll be down to 2. So a lot of folks are already home on break, on vacation, and whatever. So, but we're glad to be playing and looking forward to a great game. So thanks for joining me. Take care. Bruce Kittle with Hidden Pearl Studio, signing out.